everybody, and welcome to the 32nd edition of the Fireside Chat. Just gonna go ahead and we got today's guest is Dalip Shekawat. Before we get into that, though, oh, there they are. See, it's like so quick when we do it on the actual live. Um, so I just got joined here by co-owner Jason Bamundi. And we have our guest here, Dalip Shekawat, ultra runner, mountaineer, hiker, teacher, just all around amazing individual. And yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Really happy to have you on.
Thank you, Om and Jason, for having me.
So I think, one of the things I really wanted to start with, because there's so many avenues we can really explore with you, is just how did you get started in endurance sports? Because everyone has a journey of how they started. You're a mountaineer, a hiker, ultra runner. Where did it start for you?
So, when I was in grade 7, my dad was in army and he was posted in northeast part of India, and we had to travel to our school, and crossing through the jungle created that interest in jungle. And then as I started working, my school was close to the foothills of Himalayas, and there was a hiking group which already existed, and I joined them, and that was like multi-day hikes. And during those hikes, I got a chance to meet with a mountaineer, and then he told me that, why don't you go for basic and advanced mountaineering courses? So that's where the journey started. I did my basic and advanced in 2002 and 2006, and then I never looked back because it was so amazing to be on the mountain. And I created this progressive plan where I climbed almost 15 peaks before I made a decision that I'm going to climb Mount Everest. And during this time, like while I was climbing, I was also hiking, but there was no running component until 2017. Because once I did my 7,000 peak, and then I was like, now I something for endurance. So I jumped into ultra running. I started with 50K, and then I did 100K, 100 miles. And when I did 100 miles for 32 hours, I realized that I think I'm ready for Everest. So those were my indicators to say that, I need to uh, be ready. And then once I've done 100 mile, you automatically become an ultra runner because you have to train so much to complete those races. And then since then, I have completed almost 33 ultra marathons, including Marathon des Sables and Jungle Ultra.
Dalip, did you say that you climbed 7,000 peaks?
No, I said after climbing 7,000 meter peaks, because then I have to go to the next highest, that was Everest. So.
And you said that you climbed 7,000 meter peaks?
No, I said I climbed almost 15 peaks, and then I did a 7,000 meter, and then I did. Okay. So in total, 17 peaks I've climbed so far.
Okay. That makes sense. And you've been doing this for a really long time. One thing that I have to ask anybody who's been doing endurance sports for a long time, especially such a diversity of endurance sports, is like, what advice do you have for beginners, and what do you think is the key to your long-term success?
Well, I think first thing, you need to find your interest, what your interest is. And once you find interest, you have to start small, set up small goals. What I find is a lot of people don't have any goals. So they get bored and then they give up. So you need to set small goals, because immediate goals gives you reward. And then you need to connect with people who have similar interests. You need to connect with organizations. You need to listen to podcasts, and you need to find opportunities to volunteer with those organizations. So that's the first step. You have to focus that what you want to do. And then once you have your goal, you have to stay low key. You have to consistent, in your practice, and chase your goals. And it has to be progressive with time, because if you're not going anywhere, if you're doing 5K for 20 years, you're not going anywhere, right? You have 5K, then what's next? So I'm always into that. So I'm right now like into my already third goal, what I'm going to do my third. So you have to have that plan, so that way you have very focused year planned, and that keeps me on track. So you have to avoid all the resistance. You have to avoid all the disruptions and stay focused. So I think that's my advice to the youth.
So do you come up with your goal and then write the plan for the year to match that goal? So what inspires you to discover that goal? What inspires you to say, this is what I want to do next?
Well, after gaining a hiking momentum, because I think it's the energy within, I wanted to do something adventurous, and being so explorative in nature, I look for uh, some kind of extreme races and some kind of extreme, which not a lot of people have done it. So that's my goals are totally different, because I know I don't care about fear or death, because those are two things which limit a lot of people. And once you overcome those barriers and you have answers to those, there is no limit. You can choose any goal and you train for it, because you're going to try and come out of your comfort zone. And I'm so used to that uh, I said I don't want to limit myself. But finance, no, you still can do it. So there is always an answer to those barriers, and you have to find those answers. And for that, I would say meditation has really helped me to overcome those fears and answer those, that what's going to happen, so to relieve myself from all the traps. And then I can think clearly that what's next I'm going to decide for myself.
When did you start doing meditation, and how did that sort of lead to, or I suppose, what advice would you give to somebody who is looking to start that kind of practice, and what are some of the benefits you've gotten out of it?
Well, I started meditation in 2015 because uh, I I learned through one of my climber friend that meditation is really helpful, and I read a lot of leadership books, and they all talked about meditation, 5 a.m. in the morning, and all those routines. So I wanted to bring a big change in my life, and that's when I sat down, and all that calm energy, came from meditation, and I got the clarity of my goals, that what I want to do with my life. And I have come so far in all this, climbing and all this. Where is this going to end? What I'm going to do with it. So everything was clear, and then I answered those serious questions, which always comes, that what's going to happen if you die, because those are real questions when you're thinking of climbing Everest. Because since 2015, I had that in my back of head, that when are you going to do it? You're already 40. You need to get this going. And then within years, I set up a training plan, that 3-year training plan, that I'm going to do cold training, I'm going to do weight training, I'm going to do endurance training, I'm going to run 100 miles. It's like whatever, like I broke my goals down to cellular level, and I decided that how I'm going to work it out. I know it's going to be not immediate, it's going to be very progressive, but it took me 3 years to feel comfortable and save that much of money, work 2 jobs, train for 3 to 4 hours. It was very lonely, exhausting, and painful, but it was my goal, and I knew that nobody's going to tell me wake up and go to gym and punch 10,000 hours of endurance training or run 5,000 kilometers. Then you're going to say so. I self-coached myself, because I had that deep inside me, that family values and those will to do things.
So in American culture, right, patience is not a thing. Like, we want everything yesterday. And as soon as you started talking about meditation and Everest, and you had a 3-year plan, I wrote the question down. Did your patience come from meditation, or did the meditation lead to patience? Because 3 years is a long time to put for a goal in today's society, where, look, if I want something, I can order it on Amazon and it's at my door in 15 minutes.
I think patience came from meditation, because once I had my clarity of thought, I calmed myself, because I can think straight. I was not in a rush, because I can think straight. I can see how far it's going to take me, how much time it's going to take me, because you have to factor in time, you have to factor in money, you have to factor in, your energy, and then your family situation, because, finding time with employer, getting enough resources available so that you don't fail, because saving $70,000 is not a joke, because what you're going to do has so much meaning and so much value it's going to bring to the family. So I wanted to go prepared because I had only one chance. I knew that I cannot go again. I'm not born rich. I'm a middle class person who has to work, two jobs to pay off this uh, the cost. And if I fail, I fail. So I never wanted to fail. So that's why I created a plan which was in a way progressive, and that lead to now more goals because that opens so many avenues for me, and I'm blessed that that worked for me.
Yeah, and I mean, like you talked about the struggles you went through over those 3 years, and I think people often see us with the buckle or the finisher's medal or at the top of the peak, but they don't realize the 10,000 hours we punched, the sacrifices we made to get there. And so it's just a really amazing journey. So we've dove into Mount Everest a little bit, but since we were talking about the kind of meditation and mindset, I wanted to go into something that has stuck with me ever since we talked about it on stage one of the Jungle Ultra, which we'll get through later. You talked about enlightenment through suffering. Tell me a little bit about that philosophy that you've built.
Yeah, I think we live in a very soft environment. Whenever rubber hit the road or life gets tough, we either quit or we just move away from it. But I embrace it. I created a process that I'm going to take my discriminations, I'm going to take my failures, I'm going to use that to fuel my passion. So I created this plan where I'm going to find the hardest day, like the hottest day, the like the coldest day. Those are my training days. I have to build that mental resiliency and that grit into myself, so that the inner peace can be achieved not through simple ways, but there is another way to achieve inner peace is to do hard things. So that's my formula. That's why I just started choosing the extreme races like the Sahara race. Then I did a jungle ultra. Then I'm also planning to sign up for the extreme uh, um, expedition Canada, which is 570 kilometers, which is in June. So I'm in process of tying up with team members. That's going to be an adventure race, and then the ultimate would be the what do you call? It's another race. One. Um, sorry, I'll come back to that. But it's really important to choose those goals, and yes. Sorry, you can ask, and I'll come back to that question again.
So,
You can continue.
so how does this enlightenment through suffering penetrate other aspects of your life that are not climbing Mount Everest or jungle ultras, but your everyday life with working two jobs to pay for this or family or anything else? How does that mantra penetrate other aspects of your life?
I think it's really important that we don't run after materialistic world, and you live a very simple life where your needs are very less. I through military training and through Everest, through Sahara, through Amazon, what I've learned is uh, your basic needs are very simple. You don't need all this complex world. When you carry 7 days the food you want and the sleeping mattress, you can still survive with those 2000 calories and that food. Why are we chasing all these big things in the world? Like we need car, we need house, we need. So why don't we just live in simple life and think big and do big things, like help out people in other community? And so that way, um, that again comes back to the goal, right? Living a simple life but having bigger goals. So that's my motto kind of thing, and that brings me to my inner peace and suffering.
Yeah, back to inner peace and suffering. And boy, did we suffer at the Jungle Ultra. Um, yeah, I wanted to go back to, there's a list of races that you've done and you've mentioned that I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to go to Mount Everest. Tell me about the actual experience. Tell me about how things went down and how that eventually opened the doors. Did that open the door to, for example, the Marathon des Sables and the Jungle Ultra? So tell me about that.
So, climbing Everest is the dream of every mountaineer, and it was an interesting journey of great resilience, team dynamics, and personal leadership. It required a lot of planning for me, and it took me almost 15 years to say that I'm ready for it. So, you know, it was a huge undertaking for me, and the experience was so amazing that I learned a lot of things about myself. That when you stand up at 30,000 feet and you look down the world, you see uh, that how amazing the Everest is and how small we are in front of the mountain. So sizing up my problems that uh, in the whole world we just cry for small things, but when you go see the big mountain, that can teach you a lot of things, that how small we are and how we we can lead a very simple life. And we had like we lost two of our fellow climbers during that, and that 50-day journey was so intense at times, because it was like living on a refrigerator. It was always like cold in the tent, but as higher you go, it get colder. But overall, the experience was so amazing that we met such great people in our journey, and I think we made friends forever. You that taught us so many things, that nature is so powerful, and always respect nature.
As difficult as that adventure was, is there anything that you can think of that is on your goal list that would be as difficult or may even strike fear in you at this point? Because I would think it being able to climb Mount Everest, there isn't another challenge out there that would strike fear, so to speak, that you can say now, I can do that because I've done this.
Well, I don't believe, like, I don't keep fear in front before making those decisions. I believe in trying it and giving my best. If I fail, I'm going to go back again, because uh, failure will never let us, if I keep that I'm going to fail and I'm not going to try, I think that's I have overcome that process, and I always make, like, I choose purposely the toughest one. Like the one I was missing was Badwater Ultra, which I wanted to try. So it skipped my head. Sorry. Yeah. So that's my next. I saw the description, and the race was like, oh, it's not easy to get into those races. So it'll be my challenge now to get into that Badwater Ultra and do that race.
It's an experience. I've had
Yeah.
the opportunity to be a crew member at Badwater a number of years ago, and it's an experience from the crew member side. So being an athlete, I can only imagine the exhilaration that you would have going through the process of getting from point A to point B in that race.
Because in Sahara, like, we had the temperature around 60 degrees, and where the dropout was 50%. So if I can last at 60-degree temperatures for 6 days, I think that's important, that I should give it a try, because I have genetic advantage. I was born in Rajasthan in India, and which is pretty hot, and 47, 48 degrees is nothing for me. I don't feel even that hot.
Yeah, and that is degrees Celsius for all of our American friends, folks. So 60 degrees Celsius is very hot. That's probably north of 120, 130 degrees in an exposed environment. So I'm glad you brought up Marathon des Sables. So that is, for those of you who don't know, a 6-day, 250-kilometer event, and basically it's six marathons in that time span. But
Yeah.
it's not just on the road, it's out in the Saharan desert. So tell me about when you decided you were going to do that, because you talked about your passion for extreme races and how you trained, and tell us a bit about the experience.
I went to India to train. So because in summer I stayed there, I ran in the hottest days, and everybody was like, "Are you crazy? Like, you're gonna get a heat stroke." But I said, "No, I wanted to do this Sahara race," and I remember I ran a full marathon in India. It was almost 46 degrees, and it was hot. Honestly, like, your body even heats up. But I was like, I'm going to train for it. I'm going to go slow, and I did my gear check and all that. And once I reached there, it was such an amazing race to see that they purposely wait until 10 o'clock till the sand gets hot. I was like, why don't you start early? We can just complete half of the distance. But no, they'll start at 10 o'clock, and then it gets like pretty hot, and we ran out of water most of the times. And the longest stage was day 4, 85 kilometers. That was pretty intense for a lot of us because we had blisters. We were just like toast. I was totally like toasted because of the heat we had, and we had one death and 350 dropouts during that race. But running this race in the world's most inhospitable environment was such a amazing experience until I run Amazon, the Jungle Ultra. Before that, I always used to believe that MDS is the toughest foot race. But when I took part in Jungle Ultra, I would rate it as 2 out of 10 because that is nothing in front of Jungle Ultra. Jungle Ultra is an ultimate experience. So sorry, I just
I remember we were doing, I think it was stage 3 together, and you were just like fuming. It was raining, and you were like, "Man, MDS is nothing compared to this."
Yeah, stage 3 just beat me up. I was so exhausted. That's where I'm going to go back to beat my timings.
Yeah, it was actually a brand new stage, Jason, because it rained so hard and it created so much mud. They called it Pants Ripper, but I think they have like a new name for it now. But
Yeah.
it was intense.
Is it just the environment that you were in now that was rain and mud that made it more difficult than MDS?
Yeah. It's like it's the steepness and the mud you have to go through, the shin deep mud, and then waist deep water, and multiple river crossing, and then bugs wherever you touch. There is like something poking. There are ants. If you stand still, I think the red ants will carry you. You'll be gone.
Yeah, I actually got bit by one of those bullet ants on the calf on the last day where I dropped out, and it was one of the most painful things I've ever felt.
Yeah, you see like how the hammock was full of like the fire ants, so you can't even get out.
His hammock was full of fire ants, and he just packed the whole thing. He's like, let customs deal with it.
Yeah, I didn't have time to like pluck those. There were like thousands of them. So I said,
So,
I'm gonna pack all this in.
so to give people a background, what we're talking about is the Beyond the Ultimate Jungle Ultra in Peru in Manu National Forest. Beautiful, beautiful race, but definitely still to this day, the hardest thing I've ever done. It's like 230 kilometers over 5 days, and it's also of the self-sufficient format, which means you have to carry all your food. We slept in hammocks, and you also had to carry your sleeping pad as well. I think we didn't have rain for maybe like the first 2 days, and then after that, we just got absolutely poured on, and the rainforest just decided to become the rainforest.
Yeah, and like we were drenched and so uncomfortable. Like day 3, it rained for 30 hours before we started that stage, and that was like the worst day where so many people got injured. And but it was such a soul purifying experience. In the middle of that chaos, I paused and I said, "Oh my goodness, why I am doing this?" Because I remember on stage 3, I slipped so bad, like around 10 meters, and then I rolled. I hit my head on the tree trunk, and I broke my the ski poles, not ski poles,
Your
the
trekking
poles,
poles,
trekking poles, and then my pants were ripped and it was bleeding from the back. So I was like, this is what I signed up for. Come on, have fun. This
yeah,
is what is
yeah.
called
My
enlightenment
pants
through
ripped too.
suffering.
My pants ripped too, and yeah, that stage, I told myself I gave everything I had in that stage, and to this day, I'm just proud I got past stage 3. I mean, that was the hardest day I've ever done, like had in my entire life. As far as endurance sports go, that was an experience. I mean,
But
so much
where
mud.
Yeah, whereas in the description they said stage 4 was the toughest in the world, but I would say stage 3 was the toughest thing I've ever done so far.
Yeah.
I don't think I can ever complain about anything that I've done now at this point. I will remember this conversation. So, Dalip, your meditations leading to patience, like this conversation will allow me to reflect when I'm in a hard spot or a tough spot in the middle of a training day or a race to say, look, those guys got through stage 3 at one of the hardest races. And this is somebody who's climbed Mount Everest. And they said it was this hard and still got through it. So, those words will resonate. And we talked about this in the practice session, right? Where when you die, your bank account it doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
what you've done and the people that you talk to last for 3 generations. And so your conversation with me is impacting me so that I can, when it's hot here and it's not 60 degrees Celsius, but when it's hot here, go out and run or do whatever it is. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Whenever you're doing such ultra races, there is always a point that's, I call it choking point, where you have to make a decision whether you want to go ahead or you want to quit. And a lot of people struggle with that point because you're exhausted, that's when your mental strength. And then the answer is, you have been there, you have done it. So that's why training is so important, that you condition yourself into those endurance things. You train yourself in worse conditions. So there's always an answer that, you have done this. That's how I do. Like, I slow down and then I reflect on myself that, you have answered these questions. There will be a moment which will come where you have to make a decision. And the only way you're going to be out is if you collapse. I'm not quitting. I'm just keep going.
And
I
you
think
were
that,
very strategic from the beginning of that race. I remember at stage 1, you were talking about pacing yourself because you mentioned at MDS you moved up like multiple places over the next couple of days because you followed the philosophy of start slow, be strategic, and you were calm and focused.
yeah, that's how my strategy is. Save the energy to till the end. You have to be your energy economy has to be in your mind. How you're going to use it, and always have that reserve energy for the last day. That's how
And
I train.
before we move on from this, like I have to say, it was not an easy experience from start to finish for all of us, but especially for Dalip because both of us had we both had scary luggage stories. You had that incident in Mexico, and then
Yeah,
you broke your phone on the last stage, and we went looking for a new phone. And man, you were on the last stage. He was talking about river crossings, right? There are
yeah.
river crossings that it's the same river. So tell
15
us a little bit
kilometers.
about that and like how you were basically broke your phone and it was like dark.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting story, because uh, last stage was the longest stage, and it was almost 72 kilometers, I guess. Yeah. And uh, it started early morning, 4:30 a.m. I was totally exhausted because my stomach was not doing well, and I didn't eat anything from the previous night because I finished late. But I had that thing in mind that this is the day, this is the ultimate challenge for you to do it. If you can do this, you you can brag that you finished it. And then I started slow. I was among the last, you know, few people, but there was a cutoff time for a short course. So you have to be there at like 3 p.m. And that was 45 kilometers. So before that, it was you have to climb certain mountains, and then there was a 15-kilometer stretch of river crossing. So you go straight in the river for 15 kilometers. Who has trained to run on river? Like that is that was most I think painful 15 kilometers because there was algae on the rocks. We were slipping, we were falling. There was knee deep, then waist deep, then somewhere it was close to chest. And like, why don't we swim? But then a big rock will come. So you can't actually, you have to walk that 15 kilometers. That was the biggest time waster for that. And we had like trench foot blisters on our foot, but still, that energy to go. So I made it like almost a 2:45 to the checkpoint, and I was like, I'm going full course. They said, you still won't be able to make it. I said, nope, if I made this checkup, that's the last one, right? Then I have to finish this course. So I took a longer route. And then by the time I reached, there was a steep climb, almost 1,200 meters of the climb after that checkpoint. That's why people were telling me to go, but I said, no, I want to do this. And after the climb, then almost when I was descending down, there were 6 more kilometers to the next checkpoint, and my headlamp started flickering, and then it stopped working. I said, oh no, my goodness, in the middle of, it was totally dark, and you can see, I can't even see anything in front of me where to go. And I was descending down that 1,200 meter peak. So that's the time where, I just prayed to God that, I need some help here, because I cannot survive this. So I did multiple taps, and it luckily started working. And then I ran, you don't believe, I was scared as hell, because in the jungle, there were cougars, there were so many wildlife, and I saw like a black widow spider just 15 minutes before my lamp, turned off. So I was like, I'm gonna be dead today if I don't make it.
These are jungle black widows. They're probably bigger than your average black widow.
Yeah, and then I ran that 6 kilometers. I didn't see where I'm falling, how much scratches I'm getting. I just ran, and I reached that river point, and there was no sign. Like, there were the glow sticks, the local people, those kids have stolen those glow signs to go, So I was standing at the river, and throughout the race, we had like boats, we had motorboats, people helping us, and that river was wide open. I was like, how am I going to cross this river? Because if it's deep, and I don't know where to go, because it was totally dark, my headlamp was not working. It stopped working after that. Then I used my Garmin watch, the light, and I was waiting for someone to see. I saw another headlamp, which was like almost 500 meters away, which was another girl from Scotland who was also lost. She was also looking for that. But I crossed that river like slowly and slowly, that if I need to swim, I need to swim, So I crossed, and I found a trail using the moonlight and my watch. I had to walk another 2 kilometers to find to the aid station. I told them, like, guys, where are the glow sticks? And the radios are not working. I think I sent multiple messages that I'm lost, because I knew it's already 9 o'clock at night, and nobody's going to come for help if the radios don't work. But finally I find that, and then the last 15 kilometers, we just finished it by like 11:30ish. We finished the race, and that was the best thing, best experience of a mix of everything, that was brutal. I got bruised. I had, everywhere, like I had monkeypox. Those bugs bit me so hard throughout the race, because I cannot describe the experience of crossing through that 72 kilometers throughout the day. I was totally exhausted, but once you know that the finish line is close, you get that energy, that you saved all this energy for this last 2 kilometers, and I ran that 2 kilometers, and I'm still proud of that. I finished it.
It's amazing, and because not that you finished it, but really that you press register on something else after having that experience. I would guess, right? No scientific research here, but I would guess the vast majority of the people that watch this video would say to themselves, I'm done. I survived it. I did it. I could put it in the books, and I'll go read books instead of climbing and going through rivers now. So it's not so much that you did it, but the fact that you're going back to do something else is amazing. I mean, the perseverance is incredible, Dalip. And thank you for sharing that story, because I think people need to understand that there is hard, that's not impossible.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can set your mind to it, you can get through it, basically. And that's essentially what your story is.
I think the most important piece is, through self-discipline and commitment, and that spiritual mindset, you can achieve any goal.
I was going to ask you about the extreme expedition in Canada that you're talking about or did talk about, because it's a little bit different than running through the jungle, because there's going to be mountain biking and river crossings and rafting and all of that stuff. But it seems like you had the extreme expedition in that last stage anyway, with having to cross the river for 15 kilometers and stuff like that. How does the biking scenario come in for you, who's a mountaineer and a hiker and an ultra trail runner? Now you've got to get on a bike. So how does that play into the whole concept now?
So I also do adventure race. We have a 9-hour adventure race in Winnipeg. So that's the one of the most adventurous race of Manitoba, and I've done this 3 times already. So I have that mountain bike, which I used. We canoe and we navigate through bushwhacking. So it's similar to that that race. We're going to be doing 570 kilometers with no rest in 7 days in BC.
Amazing.
So speaking of Winnipeg, before we get into the South Pole and Mount Vincent, I wanted to talk a little bit about the running group that you have, the Rising Runners. So tell us about that and why you started it and what it's all about.
So Rising Runners, I founded Rising Runners in 2020. Once I came back from Everest, I had such a high momentum, that I said, I'm not going to sit down quietly. So I was already into running. And then I said, I see very less representation of South Asian people in running, ultra running. So that inspired me to bring our community people out. And then I generalized it to everybody, that it has to be bigger than this. So now we have almost 70 members. We do a lot of activities, not only limited to running. We do online hit sessions, we do trail cleanup, we do tree plantation, we fundraise for homeless people, we deliver meals to homeless people, and we volunteer with various running groups and other social events. So it's a kind of place where we not only survived COVID, we all stayed fit during COVID time when people were struggling through mental health challenges. We were staying fit and connecting with each other. So that helped a lot of people to stay out of trouble and help them to stay fit. And we made a bigger community and represented that we are ready to help and we are available.
That's amazing. And, it's just great to be able to give back to the community and just create that South Asian representation and open it up to everyone else as well, because we think that's really important here at Run Try Bike as well. But before we get into the rapid fire, I want to get into your South Pole expedition and Mount Vincent. Explain what it's about, why you're doing it, and how people can support you.
So I'm leaving in 10 days to South Pole. So I'm going to ski to South Pole. And after skiing to South Pole, we're going to climb Mount Vincent. So I'm the only Canadian who's going. And there are 4 other members from Norway, US, one from US, and one from UAE. So basically, why I want to do this is to study the climate change effect, because throughout my journey, like I've been to Everest and I've seen the impact of climate change. It's so huge that now, there are bigger crevasses, there are more avalanches, the bodies are exposed now because snow is melting there. The high lakes are swollen on Everest. And in Amazon, also we saw like the landslide and the impact, how they're destroyed every day, because of forest fire, because of human interference and habitat loss for animals. Same thing with Amazon, Sahara too, because the temperature is changing. So I just wanted to go there and study the impact of climate change. I want to see the landscape, temperature, wind speed. I'll have my diary to record that. I'm going to make videos about that. And also I'm going to follow up with the North Pole, which is in April. So I can do a presentation on the current state of the poles, how the poles are affected mostly because of climate change, and what changes we can bring in our daily lifestyle to minimize that.
Amazing.
And I'm also starting a fundraiser for the organization where I work. So that'll be coming up soon. Also, my GoFundMe page is there if anybody want to support. I have raised almost $10,000, and I would especially like to thank to Rising Runners family, you know, especially the fundraising team who helped me to plan all this. And, you know, because it's a conflict with my values, because I never asked money to anybody, because I'm always in the end to give, you know. So it's a tough decision for me to take, but, you know, sometimes you have to when the goals are bigger. India Association of Manitoba has helped me with this. Snap Fitness, my gym membership, you know, it's free. They allowed me to come and do workout there. And the Wilderness Supply has provided me with gears, you know, and they're supporting me with this expedition. So I'm really thankful to all of these people, you know, and to the whole community who's coming together to support me.
It's super amazing that everyone's coming together in the community to support this big cause. We'll have his GoFundMe is on his Instagram, and we'll have that in our show notes. And so before we let you go, Dalip, I wanted to have Jason fire away on the super fun part of our fireside chat, which is the rapid fire.
Okay.
Hopefully you haven't looked up any of the questions. I don't think you have. We did have one person look them up though.
Yeah,
but it's good.
I'll try my best.
Well, these are really simple because they're mostly food-based. So when it comes to pizza, here in the US, there's this conversation, I'll be polite, where people are like, yes, let's put pineapple on pizza. So if you're eating pizza, are you putting pineapple on pizza?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because I like it. I like the flavor.
No, it's not good. Not good. I will go fund me.
Jason's from New York.
Okay, maybe I didn't get your question. You know, I'm sorry. I'm not into, you know, those kind of things, but I would definitely add pineapple on my pizza if I need
If you
to.
enjoy it, eat it up. That's it. If you enjoy it, eat it up. That's it. It doesn't. Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it, you know, basically candle wax?
It's a candle wax.
Yeah. See, he's back in the good graces. Is red velvet a real flavor, or is it just chocolate with red food dye?
Chocolate with red food dye.
Yeah, back. So Peeps, are Peeps a real candy or no?
I don't know how Peeps look like.
Even
Could be some US thing.
better that you never find out. So Peeps is like a sugar-coated marshmallow. So
Okay.
when you cook marshmallows, do you like to have them brownish, or do you like to have them fully charred, like charcoal briquettes?
Brownish.
You gotta go. I like charcoal briquettes. I like that really burned flavor, like the marshmallows on fire and everything else.
Awesome.
What other food questions do we have, Om?
I can't think of any, but one other one I wanted to ask you was when you go out on a workout or a run, for example, do you listen to music? Do you listen to a podcast, or do you listen to nature? What's your preference?
I don't listen to anything.
Yeah, nature.
I just listen to the nature, the wind. I connect with the nature. I transfer that energy. I absorb that energy. So I'm stress-free. It's a moving meditation for me. It has to be like empowering me to when I come back home. I'm free of stress, and I'm ready for another day.
What's a book you recommend our audience look up and read?
Okay. So Surviving the Extremes.
Surviving the Extremes.
And who wrote that?
I think Kenneth. I don't remember the last name, but it's been a while I read it. It's all about that's the book inspired me to do all this extreme stuff.
Awesome. Favorite?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Yes, Meru.
Oh, the Jimmy Chin documentary.
Yeah,
Such a good film. Highly
never,
recommend.
never give up. You know, they went
Yeah,
back after even failing.
yeah. Jimmy Chin, Conrad Anker.
Yeah.
Just amazing documentary.
And there's another one is Mount Elias, climbing Mount Elias.
Mount Elias.
Yeah.
I have to check that out.
You have any more questions,
No, but I did want to thank Dalip for being on the Fireside Chat. This was just an awesome episode, and it was good to go back and relive some of those memories of the Jungle Ultra and just to chat with you. And we'll have to have you back on the show sometime. And also, just, if I'll say this to you offline as well, but just wanted to say it on behalf of Run Try Bike. Just good luck on your expedition. We'll be rooting for you, and we'll be following all the updates.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for having me. It was such a fun and refreshing all the memories we spent together. Hope one day we'll be running together and I'll be supporting you in one of your, adventures. Thank you, Jason. It was amazing. I heard a lot about you and finally I got a chance to meet you.
If you need crew at Badwater, you look me up, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, same here.
Thanks, Dalip. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good